Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today, GAIJIN released a bunch of little news items, including a roadmap little devlog and also the BARM devlog, plus a update on the testing of the APHE shells. So, what we're going to do in this video is go over some of them. Not going to touch the BARM, basically because I've already talked about it, we've already gone through it, we've already done the history and everything like that. So, if you want to see it, I did do a video of it on the dev server. The BARM event does start today, so if you want it, make sure to check that out. But we will have a look at the roadmap devlog, because this one is one that I know a lot of people are interested in. Basically, now you will get a notification when a reported player has been banned. So they're adding in the system notifications tab in the game to actually be a bit more useful. It's been there for a while, but doesn't really do too much. Now, what will happen is if somebody that you reported gets banned, you will actually get a little kind of message saying a player was blocked from one of your complaints. So that is pretty cool. It basically means that you get feedback on your reports working. Obviously, one of the biggest issues, especially when it comes to online gaming or just online stuff in general, is trust. A lot of people have issues with the idea that if they actually put forward, their reports, are they actually being listened to? Do people actually get banned? And GAIJIN over the years has probably gone above and beyond to actually kind of show people, yes, what you do does matter and you should continue to do it. Obviously doing the banned lists and also even creating posts talking about the amount of botters that are in the game, the amount of cheaters and all of this. And this is just an additional step to that, meaning that you get, even more feedback about what you're doing. So you'll get feedback about your complaint being processed and also feedback about when a player was banned, when or after you have reported them. Now, the thing about this is it is completely anonymized, and so you won't know who got banned from your complaints, especially if you're a person who, reports a decent amount of people. And the basic reason for this is because of legislation in different countries. You obviously can't, target people in that way, even if it is just an online name. So you've got to make sure to not release that to the general public. So even though it'll tell you that a player was banned, it won't tell you who. But at the same time, the whole point is the positive feedback in a way so you continue doing the system. So this is another roadmap change that they said that they'd implement, and really nice to see. They're really coming along with all those, and hopefully they can continue. There was also a post from Esmin about the APHE shell changes which were on the dev server and the testing of them. Now, I gave them a go. I actually liked them. I think generally they would be positive for the game, but at the same time there was a lot of talk and a lot of chat around the proposed APHE shell changes, but mainly about the fact of how GAIJIN went about them instead of basically just following the vote and the way that it should have. And a statement like this should have come out before the actual implementation of the testing, or even like after they finished the vote, because unfortunately this obviously led a lot of people down some worrying paths in terms of logic, and it made them kind of go all over the place and get annoyed when, to be honest, that is never the goal. So let's go through the statement, what it says, and also my general thoughts on it. We would like to clarify on the subject of the APHE shells, the vote that took place, and also further testing. We understand that our initial intentions and further steps may have been unclear and have raised questions, so we will tell you about everything in detail once again. The vote was held to collect opinions to decide whether we should start working on it at all, and, as we said, we did not plan to introduce such changes without testing and voting on its results. We needed to study the players' interest in the topic, and given that some players could vote against, thinking that the vote was for introducing the mechanic into the game and not for testing it, we considered 48.64% of for votes as a significant amount of interest and decided to prepare for testing to take place. We will note in advance that if, as a result of the vote for introducing the mechanic, following on the testing, we see the same borderline results without a clear advantage, for example 51 for and 49 against, then we will not introduce this change, since we do not want to upset a significant portion of the player base. The biggest questions from players are about the changes to the scattering sectors of fragments from APHE shells. We're already seeing feedback from test participants that in different conditions, the penetration results compared to the current version on the main server may differ and have both a smaller and also a greater effect, depending on the place where the penetration took place and locations of the modules and crew. The other 2 points, namely preserving the warhead and strengthening secondary fragments, led to increased damage in all situations, which is why they do not cause controversial reactions and will in any case be added in the upcoming major update, which means that the new mechanics of fragment distribution, if approved by the players, will appear in the game along with them. Therefore, we are testing them together, not separately. Testing is available on the dev server until the 5th of September, then we will take a break and focus on releasing the major update. After some time, we'll conduct testing on the main server in the same format, in the protection analysis and an event, since we believe that for an objective assessment, anyone who wishes to vote should be able to test the changes without having to download a separate client. In addition, we will improve the voting service and introduce additional conditions for participants so that accounts specially created for voting cannot distort the results. Finally, we would like to remind you that a significant majority of votes for changing the scattering sectors of fragments of APHE shells is required to make a positive decision. Otherwise, this mechanic will not be introduced. So, the statement there is a pretty good one, to be honest, like going through all of the standard things. There is obviously 2 parts which stand out. You know, the fact that they believe that a lot of botting went on when it came to this, or at least there is a chance that botting went on along with this. And I think, to be honest, we can all see that, right? I don't know if you were following the general votes, but basically it was one way. It was like 53% one way, and then you went to bed and woke up and it was completely switched to the other way, which is very surprising to see in a vote like that, since there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of votes that are involved. So it's very odd to see a swing like that in such a small amount of time. There is also things in the way already when it comes to botting votes. You have to create an account, you know, you have to do all these things, but if they add an extra capture, I suppose nobody's really going to be too worried about that. Insinuating that people didn't understand the vote, that one is a toughie. That one is one which is very hard to prove, unless you literally have people saying it when they voted for one side and understanding their mistake. But I'm sure there will be, you know, people who believe that, where they were voting on whether the mechanic should be added instead of tested. That is something that could happen. But also at the same time, the problem, once again, is on GAIJIN's end for this. You need to make it more clear for people, or just have more options when it comes to the votes, which I'm sure is something they're going to do. But, as I said last time, when we talked about this topic, one of the biggest things here is the idea of leaving these decisions up to the community. I understand that they want to get the community involved and want to try and get, you know, people more involved in the products that they're consuming, but at the same time, this change here is a big one. It's one which fundamentally affects a lot of the early game, a lot of kind of the mid game of many of the major nations that people play. So, in my opinion, the developers and also the people who are paid to actually make these decisions should be the ones who are making these decisions. They're the people with the experience, they're the people who are literally paid for this, and the idea of putting something up to a vote like this, especially when you think that people are botting it, and also at the same time, you know, when it comes to the fact that, according to you, people were not understanding the vote properly, both of these lead me to believe that you need somebody who actually wants to make the decision, instead of the fact that you have, you know, everybody just sat over here waiting for a community vote to come in. Now, because the majority of people voted no and they went ahead with it anyway, kind of shows that the fact that there is people making these decisions, and I'm very glad that they did push forward with the test. But the way to do this type of thing, and I understand, yes, economics are finite, right? At the end of the day, unlimited money does not exist for any business. Unlimited money does not exist for, the world in that sense. So you do have to pay people to develop these things. But if you are able to develop this over such a short period of time, since if we actually look when the vote happened and when it was ended, by the way, and then when the dev server started, you are talking about a couple of days here. Right? You are not talking about like vast amounts of weeks. So if this had been worked on before the vote or while the vote was going on, then that obviously shifts what GAIJIN wants to do anyway. And if you are adding more development time to it to push it forward maybe a little bit quicker, sure. But the simple fact is that should not be a consideration for the standard player. The standard player will not care about the economics of the situation. That is a GAIJIN issue, right? So you have to make the decisions based on GAIJIN issues by GAIJIN people. So instead of, the standard person who takes into, account those things. Because if you're just told these things will be expensive to develop, the barometer of that, or like the range of that, is just all over the place. So I've never really enjoyed it. Hopefully in the future, what will come from this is something that's pretty simple, right? Hopefully we can get a situation where GAIJIN makes the decision themselves to push forward with the testing of the mechanic, and then you get votes afterwards, which are more of the standard ones. So very much for, mildly against, very much against, right? That would make the most sense to me, and that would mean that people could get more testing done, they could get more kind of like footage of everything, so then we could all sit down and actually have a look and make sense of this using an evidence-based approach. Because right now, in the form of the testing of the APHE shell stuff, we got like 2 days, 2 or 3 days, that's it, in order to test them, and then that's it. And even before that, when the vote was happening, nobody would know what they look like apart from about 2 or 3 screenshots, which, as we talked about at the time, were not good representations of what were going to happen with general, fighting in the game. After testing it, though, I am for the change. They have said they will bring it to the live server, so we'll have a look at it there. But the way that they went about this is the issue. And I'm sure they'll improve it in the future, and hopefully, as I said, people who are paid to make these decisions will now make them. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.